Hey, what's happening? It's Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from California, as I do my best to transition. Excuse me, let me turn my phone off. Transition from being in Texas to being in a place where my technology doesn't work so well. I got in late last night, and my flight was delayed, and here I am, doing my best to get it together so I can get to this next platform, this next level with the platform. So I'm just going to wait for people. I know I'm running late. I really apologize. I super apologize because it has not been it's not been an easy tech morning, and there's more to sort of deal with here. So I'm just going to wait for you guys to populate a little bit. I'm going to go over to YouTube, and well, I'm already on YouTube, but I'm going to go into my shadow experience here on YouTube so I can see who's in the chat room. And today's show is going to be pretty brief because I'm doing double duty here as a, where am I? I'm over here. Switch account. Where am I here? Yeah, oh, I'm over on, see, everything is discombobulated, man. It's a rough morning. It's a rough morning, just letting you know. Normally I'm over on the other side, but let me just continue to do this since you are assembling here. Give me one sec. Get in here. There we go. There's 4 people watching. Well, at least there's 4 of you. I appreciate that. There's 4 people watching. Well, at least there's 4 of you. I appreciate that. Hi, Anna. Nice to see you. So anyway, again, I'm just a bit. I've got things to work out here from a technological standpoint. So I'm going to have a bulk of the day later to continue to work on the new platform stuff, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be up and running by tomorrow morning. And because it's not just integrating it into my new system, it's integrating into a new place with a new server and new passwords, and you know how that stuff goes. And I think most of you do. Anyway, I'm just giving you an update on that front, and letting you know that it's moving. But I moved halfway across the country, and I'm putting the pieces together. So that said, I want to say thank you for everybody, or to everybody that donated to the GoFundMe. I reached the goal at light speed. Thank you so much. And I've been in contact with some of you this morning and sending out some emails, some thank you emails, and reminding you to, if you donated to the GoFundMe, you can get the voice print analysis. And that's in the GoFundMe page, and that's through Paulette Hanson, who has a whole landing page set up, and it's the Sherry Edwards technology, which allows you to, have a really unique relationship with your voice, what's going on with your voice, where you're strong, where you're weak. It's a pretty cool thing, and everybody who donated gets one. So please avail yourself of that. I know Paulette really wants to flex the technology and build out what she's doing, because she's got some other stuff that she'll probably be offering as well. So pay attention to her, stay in touch with her. We need all the tools we can get to get through these times and to understand ourselves from the macro perspective and from the micro, what's going on inside of us, to the big picture out there. And sometimes there's not much of a difference, to be quite honest with you. So let me just check in and see who else is in the chat room. Again, I apologize for being on this channel this morning. Hey, what's going on, Marie? There's Anna. Have not been getting YouTube notifications. Yeah, so it's gonna change. It'll definitely change. I just have to get it, everything hooked up and linked up. So let me do this one thing here, because I had a nice little backlight. You see, even with the lighting stuff, right? See, I had the nice backlight, and then it went away. Control. It's a Virgo moon, right? Control is the issue. Do we have any? Yeah, I think we do. See that picture over there? Right there? That's my kid. See that? Right over there. Isn't that cool? Anyway, control. Do we have any? Yes, we do. And we don't, which is sort of the dance that we dance with every single day of our lives. Life is a paradox, right? You're the center of the universe and you're not. We're in this world, but not of it. It's an interesting game. And it's the arc. It's the spark of the arc that connects these 2 points of duality, theoretically. It's the rainbow bridge. And yeah, so there's a lot going on in the world. And I want to talk primarily today about the Justice Smollett situation. It's looking more and more like that this was an inside job, and it was likely instigated by the head of the resistance. And the head of the resistance, if you haven't figured it out, is Barack Obama. He's still very much involved in creating more friction, more fraction, more disunity, if possible. And the Jussie Smollett fiasco, I believe, was essentially crafted and ordered from the top down. I posted some pictures today over on Facebook, and Smollett is essentially all over the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not trying to make this like a partisan thing, okay? But it kind of is, because that's who he's repping, and that's who he has, put in the crosshairs. Well, he's repping them, but he's put the right in the crosshairs, and it was an action, right? It was a staged action, staged event. It's a psyop. What Jussie Smollett did is a psychological operation, and it failed, and it failed miserably. And one of the failures of it has to do with the fact that people are waking up, and they're seeing what's taking place. They're seeing that essentially he's a liar, and they're seeing that this has been fabricated. What they don't understand is the nature and the extent of the fabrication, because that part is pretty critical. So if you go back and listen to my Sunday night show or watch my Sunday night show, and I'll put a link to the Sunday night show in the text box here at the end, you'll see that I get into his chart. And so what I did is I essentially, crafted his chart and came up with an ascendant and a time that I basically felt that it was at least doable in that moment, right? Anytime you get into rectification, it takes like a fair amount. Like you have to put a lot of things in the process of rectification. And I didn't have like a whole catalog of Jussie's, childhood events, and to do a really, really, thorough rectification, one that's not sort of based on rectification and intuition, which can work. You have to really drill in and see where things are happening and where they happened at specific times. And during the process, when you're working, or when I'm working with a person, there's an interactivity and a dialogue that takes place between me and the person to kind of locate events and times in their chart and their life. Anyway, that said, I came up with the best time that I could, roughly around this event, because I was looking at Mars transiting through his 12th house, which is, hidden enemies. Hidden enemies. I could have put Mars in the 6th house in an open enemy, but clearly there is no open enemy. If this was a real event, here's a little astrology for you. If this was a real event, there's a good chance that we could have located transit Mars through his 6th house. But that's not the case at all, because it's not a real event. So therefore, I placed transit Mars in his 12th house. So the hidden enemy. Well, who's the hidden enemy here? That's the question. Is the hidden enemy Jussie Smollett? I watched him. I watched more of that Robin Roberts interview. And okay, first of all, he's oily. He's just oily. I look at him and I want to take a shower. Okay, he's oily. Second of all, he's actually more than an actor. If you listen to what he says, he's playing neuro-linguistic programming word games with Robin Roberts. He's talking in almost like an inverted syntax. So there's something he knows something about like language magic and inversion and perhaps some NLP, because he's revealing things when he's talking to Robin Roberts in a very unusual way. So he's essentially talking about the truth, and he likes to parade this truth flag, because he's got Neptune in Sagittarius, and it's opposing his Gemini sun with the truth flag. But it's when he got a Sun Neptune opposition, it's a false truth flag. Okay, but when he talks about the truth, or he talks about the truth in context with the interview with Robin Roberts, he's essentially saying, "Look, I was questioned about this. I was questioned about the truth, and if you don't see the truth, you don't get it." So that's happening on 3 different levels. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. If you don't see the truth, you don't get it. So what he's saying is, if you don't see the truth of this situation and what I'm doing, quote unquote, hidden in plain sight and telegraphing everything, then you're not getting this. Number two, if you don't see sort of really the racism that's taking place, even though I have fabricated this event, potentially, right? You don't get it. Okay. That's what he's saying. And then there's a third level, which is, if you don't see this, you're a moron. I mean, that's kind of like the first level. So if you listen to him, and I encourage you to watch the Robin Roberts interview, because there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of show and tell going on, but you have to pull apart the word magic, which is taking place. So now here we are, next level with this event. And I do believe that there is a level of interconnectivity going on, from Cory Booker to Kamala Harris to Barack Obama, and any other sub operatives inside the Democratic Party, and that there was a synchronized series of events that were staged to take place so that Jussie could have this event in Chicago. Now, remember, this is very important that it's taking place in Chicago. They could have done the event anywhere. They could have done the event in, say, Los Angeles or New York City. But what they don't have the privilege of and the luxury of is the cover of the Chicago PD, because they're the home team. This is a city where the gun violence and the homicide rate is just freaking off the charts. I was hearing some statistics yesterday about it. So number one, the police force is probably bitter, cynical, burnt out, and bought off. Any one of those 4 would apply. I mean, think about being a cop in Chicago. You get up every day and you know what your day is basically going to be like. Your day is going to be more like useless violence, senseless violence, cycle, repeat the rinse cycle over and over again. Handcuffs on you as a police officer, because there are certain things you can do, certain things you can't do. If you're in the PD, you know that there's levels of corruption. People aren't stupid. Although I do believe that they've changed the test for qualifying for police in the police academy. There's been a dumbing down of that. I've talked about that before. So anyway, they stage it in their hometown, so that when it gets to this point, if it got to this point, there could be heavy interference. Running the heavy interference in a place like Los Angeles or New York or wherever might not be as easy. So what is the next stage here? Now, Jussie Smollett has not talked with the PD. And by the way, he does not have to. He doesn't have to talk to the PD. He doesn't. There's nothing that says he has to talk to them. unless he is like they requested another interview. He doesn't have to talk to them. Remember that. That's a very important point because you're seeing something in action here. You know, if you ever have to be requested to talk to somebody at that level, you don't have to. You don't have to. You say no. No, you either, arrest me or get a grand jury, which is the next step that they're probably going to have to take. So here's what I think is going to happen. They're going to say that Jussie has already spoken with the Chicago Police Department, and he's under a great deal of emotional strain and emotional stress, and because he can't believe that people don't believe him. He can't believe that he's being considered a suspect. And I would not be surprised if he goes into some form of, quote unquote rehab, but it won't be for drugs. It'll be Jussie has decided that he needs to rest and recuperate and relax and take time out from all the accusations. And he could go to some kind of, 30-day treatment center. And they can buy time, install, and buy time, install. And the next thing you know, there's something else that happens. And we're moving on from this event. This event is important. It's very important. It's very, very important because what it does is it exposes. It's not just the left-right paradigm. It's not just this is what the left is doing. Although that's kind of a big deal, to be quite honest with you. But it exposes sort of this underhanded nature of what we call the deep state. Now, the deep state operates on both sides of the left and the right ledger sheet. If you think that the deep state is just a conglomeration of left-wing or left-wing wingnuts, you're wrong. The deep state is pervasive, what we call the deep state, and it's a network. It's kind of like the archons. It's like the deep state is probably the archons. It's an archonic aggregation. When you look at the what are the archons? Well, the archons are kind of this network of influence, right? They're a network. This is how it was explained to me by James Gillibrand. I asked, well, what's an archon? We talk about archons a lot. It's a network of influence. So it could be any number of participants from various groups that influence our consciousness and influence our consciousness from a place that is very, very dark. And the whole idea is to further engage in manipulation of our consciousness and take us out of this realm of sovereignty, will, and the higher will, and personal consent. This is what the archonic network does. And the deep state is in some ways the explicative order of the archonic network. And so when you get into the deep state, you'll find a number of players that are participating. And it's not just like the McCabe's or the Strocks or the Comeys. They're part of it. It's the intelligence networks. They're part of the deep state. It's crime syndicates that have infiltrated and embedded themselves in the governing process. They're part of the deep state. Okay. It's foreign governments. They're part of the deep state. You could just begin to put all these influencers together, and it is the level below sort of the next level, right? So here we are, we're floating around in this level of reality. We're spinning around, and we're trying to interact with theoretically people that represent us, okay? Then the level below that is the people that represent us and the ties that they have with special interest groups. And they're all connected to special interest groups, whatever. Some special interest groups aren't bad. There are some special interest groups that, might actually have your best interest at stake, right? Judicial Watch, I think, is a pretty good special interest group. And there's more. If I came up with a list, you might go, okay, I like that, I like that, I don't like that. But they're all involved in special interest groups. So that's kind of the next level. So then it's like, who's behind the special interest groups and what's driving them? And not every special interest group, but most of them. That's where you start to get into the gutters of the deep state in a lot of ways. Okay, so just this, I'm just giving you a brief kind of summation of what that is. It's not just like these people. It's bigger, like the Koch brothers. They're part of the deep state. Soros, the bagman for the Rothschilds, part of the deep state. The Rockefellers, part of the deep state. The Rothschilds, part of the deep state. CIA, FBI, part of the deep state. AFL-CIO, part of the deep state. Skull and Bones, part of the deep state. You see this network that's going on, and they have vast influence and power. Freemasons, part of the deep state, right? They are part of it because they have political clout, power, and influence. You know, APAC lobbies, part of the deep state. China, part of the deep state. Yes, they are. They're part of the deep state. Yes, because they are influencers. They're influencers with politicians, people that represent us. They're influencers with bankers, tech companies, spies. Israel, part of the deep state. England, part of the deep state. The Queen of England, part of the deep state. The Pope, part of the deep state. You see what we're dealing with? So when you say drain the swamp and drain the deep state or get them out, this is what we're dealing with. It's very deep and systemic. So now on the Jussie Smollett side, we're dealing with a certain faction within that sort of larger rubric. And this faction is a faction that I believe is tied to the Bolsheviks and the Bolshevik script or the script flip. I think both sides can be tied to the Bolsheviks in a lot of ways, right? But this is a side that practices, open fighting revolution. This is what they practice, and that's what we're seeing now. And it's been going on since Obama was elected. George Bush, of course, set the stage. He set the stage for all of it. You see how tight the Bushes and the Obama. They all just suck up to each other. But he set the stage for it. He set the stage for it with 9/11, which was a deep state operation. That's what happened. 9/11 was deep state. And what happens? Well, we go to Afghanistan and we go to Iraq and we bomb the shit out of them and we bomb the shit out of them and we open up the opium trade and we begin to dispossess people. And, along the way, ISIS is created and ISIS comes into play. Now we've got new players, new operatives inside the deep state. Now we're dispossessing Syrians and Kurds. Along the way, they decide to go after, take out, Gaddafi, and we dispossess, more people on the Libyan side. And now we've got the wave of, this unfettered wave of migration. You guys know the story. You're smart. You get it. Anyway, then Obama comes along and says, okay, well, we're going to, I am hope, I am change. And what he's really there to do is to create more division based on the elements that were created and handed to him. And the biggest division element that was handed to him was the housing crisis and the housing bubble. All that money that went away. Okay. All that money that went away. And that was just phase one. The deeper division was creating a divide and conquer strategy between the so-called white race and the so-called black race. Okay. That was the plan. And I've gone down this path before. And I've just listed all the characters and all the operations that took place. What we're seeing now is the same thing. The Jussie Smollett incident was created, aided, and abetted by the same people. And their whole goal is to flip everything here and to create enough chaos and division in the meantime to, mess with your heads, get you angry, get you pissed off, shake your fists, and, essentially create some ratings for Fox News, and then CNN will get their ratings because when this all happened, all eyes were glued to CNN and MSNBC and the tear fest with Don Lemon, talking about the challenges of being a gay or a black man. Apparently can't be both in America, right? I mean, this is a big psychological operation, and it could, theoretically, become untangled. It could. This could be something. This could be like a little mini 9/11 event, but I doubt if it will. Because number one, we know that the media is bought and paid for. Period. End of story. You can hear this, you can talk about this, or you can hear my point of view and other people's point of view from this perspective. through these formats, for the time being, and you'll get some of it. But you won't hear it on the mainstream media. And you certainly will not hear people like Don Lemon or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker recant what they said. They won't do it. This is not done. It's not done. And when it is done, they generally retract what they say. Like the guy from from Virginia. He's talking about how, he did the blackface thing when he was young and stupid and he regrets it. And then somebody gets in his ear and says, look, go back. Just say it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And don't worry, some shit will happen and people will forget. We'll move on from this. But don't resign. Just tell them it didn't happen. And that's what he does. He walks it back. Well, that really didn't happen. That really wasn't me. Oh, but I may have put blackface on and pretended to be Michael Jackson at a party. But that wasn't me. I'm like, oh, okay. So then what happens? Well, now you got another guy, who's still dealing with the fact that this woman, this Tyson, claims that Mr. Fairfax forced her, put a 45 to her head, said, you know what? You get down there and take care of business. All right. Or I'm taking care of business with you. Right? I mean, come on. I got 2 words. 2 words. If anybody ever does that to you, if you're a woman, anybody ever does that to you, I got 2 words for you. Lorena Bobbitt. Lorena Bobbitt. They're going to make a movie out of her, by the way. Did you know that? They're making a movie out of Lorena Bobbitt. She's going to be transformed into a feminist hero or heroine. Yes, it's true. Probably be nominated for Academy Award. The standards for the Academy Award in movies in general have just really fallen into the Marianas Trench. Do you remember movies like Dr. Zhivago? I mean, that was a freaking epic movie. The Godfather. Epic. Gandhi. Epic movie. These were movies that were big. I mean, even Spike Lee, when he did the biopic of Malcolm X, it's kind of an epic movie. And I'm not even a Spike Lee fan, but I'll give him credit for that. That's a big film, big subject matter. The scope of the cinema, the cinematic scope it's rich, right? It's big. Denzel Washington, great actor, turns in a phenomenal performance as Malcolm X. Okay. Movies used to be events. They used to be a big deal. And now we have A Star Is Born, 3rd time remake. And I like Bradley Cooper. I think he's a good actor. I think he's a spy. Guy speaks about 6 or 7 different languages. I think he's a total spy. And I like him. I can't stand Lady Gaga. But, she's probably going to win an Oscar. The film might win an Oscar. But this is the state of cinema these days. Remakes, sequels, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, get back to the Smollett thing. The Smollett thing is worthy. It's worthy of a movie. We don't even need movies anymore. And we have these crazy events that take place that, for all intents and purposes, have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Although the end for this is not in sight. Something will happen. Something will take place, and it'll move on. We'll move on from the Jussie Smollett experience. Maybe. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with these 2 brothers, and keep your eye on Smollett, because he probably won't talk to the police, at least not for a while. So then there's going to be a grand jury. A grand jury. Now, will they call a grand jury for this? Think of all the political pressure, all the political heat bearing down on the courts, the judicial system, and the Chicago PD, from probably one of the most corrupt cities in the history of this planet, Chicago. There are other cities that are plenty corrupt. Tammany Hall, New York. We can just check the box, right? Los Angeles during the Tom Bradley era, and that whole thing that happened, in LA, right? Anyway, keep your eye on it. Jussie Smollett probably will have a press release from his agent that, under the stress, the pressure and strain of the event, he's decided to take some time out and rest or recuperate at some kind of, I don't know, spa or someplace. He'll just go there and, party his ass up, and, won't be anything about rest or relaxation or recuperation. Bradley recuperation. Anyway, that'll happen. The more extreme model. Here's the more extreme model, and I've actually thought about this, is that he's disappeared. Because how can he theoretically act again? And I know there's going to be people out there that'll support him. They'll support him, and they'll oh well, we're going to support. We're going to make a movie with him, right? They could turn him into a cause celeb very quickly. And America really likes comeback stories, but in order to have a comeback story, you got to admit you fucked up. You can't have the comeback story without admitting you fucked up. That's part of the process. We like redemption, but we don't like redemption without atonement. Okay? No atonement, no redemption. That's the formula for personal and professional rehabilitation in this country. And they may just skip the atonement process. Oh, well, forgive. Can you forgive him? Right? He was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure to make all that stuff up. Look, here's the bottom line. This is the plan. This is the plan. They want to create a version of apartheid South Africa. And I've been talking about this for a very long time. They want to create a version of apartheid South Africa in the United States. They want to ratchet up the racist, vitriolic, hateful narrative to the point where this culture, whatever this culture has morphed into, is now a simulacra of the apartheid culture in South Africa. And then there's the attendant violence, and there's the attendant revolutionary spirit that's part of this. You can't have the violence and the revolutionary spirit without a generator, an emotive generator. And the emotive generator right now is hate. And it's like that. What is it? That 5 minutes of hate in 1984, where that's all they do. They just emote hate, and that's how they are able to express the breadth of their emotions. We're getting to that point. And retribution is part of this whole cycle. Hate and retribution. It's not great. And I pray that the truth could come out with this Jussie Smollett thing, because if you can pull on this string, you're going to see everything begin to unravel. People need to understand this. It's not a minor event. It's pretty significant, actually, because it would give us a look behind the scenes of what's taking place and what the intention is. And it's not a great intention. Let me tell you about the trickle-down effect, okay? Trickle-down effect isn't Antifa revolutionaries pumping their fists in the street and beating up people. That's part of it, but that's not really sort of the collateral damage and the net effect. It's not about the radicalization of Black Lives Matter, although that's part of it. And even on the other side, you get reactionary right groups that kick in and say, National Front kind of stuff. We're going to bash some heads, and that's not even part of it either. I'll tell you what is part of it. And it's a part of the story that people are talking about. I've been tracking and clocking youth-related crime over the past couple of weeks. And some of the things that have been crossing my radar are shocking. Absolutely shocking. The rate of youth-related crime and the age associated with it is dropping precipitously. In many cases, you'll see youth-related crime begin to really take place in sort of the late teens, 16, 17, 18, right? Right around there, right when adolescence really kicks in and hormones and testosterone really kick in. You'll see youth-related crime really begin to take a major spike. Well, I've been tracking stories of youth-related crime over the last few weeks where kids are 12, 13, 14 years old, 15 years old, and they're creating and participating in really dangerous, violent crimes without any conscience whatsoever. There was a crime that was committed a couple weeks back. There was a group of 5 kids. They were from Kentucky, and 3 of them were over the age of 15. 2 weren't. They were just 15, and the other 2 were 12 and 13. And these 5 kids went on a shooting rampage from Kentucky. They were boosting cars, and they were shooting. They were offing people. They were killing people. Okay, for their cars and who knows what else. There was a 24-year-old guy in Nashville. They ran across him, and he was getting into his car, and suburban neighborhood, Nashville, and they confronted him with a pistol. They said, "Give us your card." He refused, and they shot him. He died on the way to the hospital. So what we're seeing here, and that's just not one case. I've been seeing more of this. What we're seeing now is this net effect of, number one, there not being any kind of real consequence for things. Because we have a lot of open-ended programs. And the open-ended programs are, well, this happened, but nobody did any time. Whether it's Hillary Clinton, whether it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I mean, these are all part of kind of the spiritual algorithm for not having some form of closure, not having some form of justice, real justice. Because when that doesn't take place, guess what happens? It seeps into the entire system, and then it becomes anybody can get away with anything. And that's just from the spiritual level, right? Then you have all the other social stuff that goes into these kids' lives, which are probably the equivalent of bombed out sections of someplace in the Middle East or North Africa, right? I mean, it's kind of what their lives are probably like. They probably don't have much of a shot to begin with, but there's something that has infected. It has infected not just the political system itself, but our human systems, and that's not good. It's not good, and that's why something along the lines of the Jussie Smollett event could be incredibly cathartic and could begin to expose what's taking place. Because right now, this is a runaway train. It's a runaway train. And the runaway train is that they want to create such division and strife that those kids, even though they had no idea what they were doing, they were motivated by some dark force. Those kids were like the foot soldiers. They were the inadvertent foot soldiers to a revolution that's being staged right before our very eyes. That's what they became. They were on the front lines, and they went out and they created havoc. And so we have to understand what's taking place. And I don't care if you're a so-called white person or not. I don't even really care if you are, involved or love this country or not. If you like some degree of social order in your life, and if you want to continue to live your life in a way that has some modicum of linearity, and life isn't a linear experience, but there is some part of it of this. If you have some investment in that, you need to understand what's happening, because we're at a point where this could be incredibly disruptive. And remember, all this really kicked off on 11/9/2016, the 99th year of the Russian Revolution. And that's when Hillary and Bill essentially stood before everybody and decided that they weren't going to give up without a fight and wore their purple attire. So we're in the purple revolution. This is what's happening. The purple revolution. And oh yeah, of course, we know that Prince who was the Prince in the Revolution, Mr. Purple himself, he was moved out. Was Prince a sacrifice? I think so. I think he was. He was a sacrifice for the new revolution. And that's where we're at right now. And Jussie Smollett is an actor. He's an actor. He's an actor on two levels. Of course, he's a sun, moon, and Gemini. He's an actor on two levels. He's an actor in his own drama. He's an actor in a bigger drama, the revolutionary drama. Just keep your eye on it. It's going to be very interesting to watch. But also, next level, just wait for the next event to happen. And it will happen because we'll be talking about something else probably in a week from now, 3 or 4 days from now. All of a sudden, let's move him on the back burner. We got to come up with something else here. We're on the clock. All right, let me check in with you guys in the chat room, see where you're at. Thanks for showing up today. Prince was murdered for that reason. Absolutely. How many hats has Robert Phoenix on? Are they coordinated with his astrological charts? Luann says Kentucky is MK Ultra breeding ground. That's interesting. Destabilization has been complete for some time. Subversion is full effect. Gulp, you know what's next. Yeah, we're into it. We are into it. You know. What else we have? It's funny. I thought of moving to Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee. People said you might not be country enough. I haven't, because those places are all becoming too California. But if you live in the Ozarks in Missouri, that's not going to be too California. I guarantee you that. Trust me. Yeah, I do have Jussie. Yeah, I rectified it. Okay, I rectified it. Let's see. Paulette says, I knew the woman who sold large chocolate penis candies on courthouse steps at Bobbitt trial. Local news coverage is crazy. They're going to turn her into a hero or heroine. That's what's happening. Okay, let me get out of here. I got to go help me, Madre. Thank you for your patience this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody that donated to the GoFundMe. I've contacted about half of you. Please, if you hit the GoFundMe and you donated, avail yourself of Paulette's technology. It's a really cool deal. Man, if you haven't, she's got a web page set up and she's getting involved in this voice print stuff. So Paulette, I know you're in the chat room. Feel free to put a link in there to your website, okay? And she's got a list of people that donated, and just avail yourself. It's super cool. She did it for me, and it was like on the money, on the button. Okay, hey, thank you. I got to work some stuff out here on the tech side of things since I'm in a new place. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can go live on robertphoenix.com tomorrow and put this new spangled thing together. Okay, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. You've been listening and watching 15 Minutes of Flame, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the other channel, by the way, or on my website, but mostly, hopefully, fingers crossed, website. Okay, take care. Bye for now.